Raja Krishnamoorthi. Congressman, so good to see you. So, I wonder, while the minority leader is condemning violence, he didn't address the spread of conspiracy theories that may have led up to an attack like what was experienced on Paul Pelosi. I mean, he said violence has no place in our society. What happened to Paul Pelosi is wrong. I mean, without being disrespectful, I mean, that's just overstating the obvious. But doesn't more need to be said from leadership of all parties? I mean, what is the risk of, say, the minority leader not saying more than that?
You're correct, Frederica. And first of all, I think everybody is praying for Paul Pelosi's speedy recovery at this point, as well as for the speaker and her family. But I think what Mr. McCarthy didn't say was that this is a form of political violence, Frederica. What the assailant shouted upon entry into the Pelosi household was, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" And that echoed exactly the chants of the January 6th insurrectionists when they breached the Capitol. And this is just the culmination of the demonization of Nancy Pelosi by many folks on the other side of the aisle. You know, my colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene in Facebook posts called for her being found to have committed treason and saying that execution was appropriate. A GOP candidate for Senate in the Arizona primary last year ran a Super Bowl ad featuring him shooting Nancy Pelosi in the ad. So this type of dangerous, violent rhetoric is going to lead to the natural result, which is violence. And that's what happened with Paul Pelosi.
So is it your belief that if it were a Marjorie Taylor Greene or perhaps even a minority leader, McCarthy, if they were to say more forcefully, singling out people who are coming from a particular persuasion, not to be violent, not to help incite violence, to stop saying aloud the dangerous things that you just reiterated. How much of a difference might that make in your view?
That make a big difference. Denouncing political violence of all stripes would make a big difference, whether it's by elected officials or by former presidents like Donald Trump, or by candidates for office. And let me just say one other thing. I think that we have to look at the role of social media in amplifying this dangerous, violent rhetoric. You know, Facebook and Twitter and other platforms make a lot of money from this type of rhetoric and the polarization that results from it. And we have to look very closely at repealing that liability that they enjoy from the negative consequences associated with this type of content that is routinely trafficked on their platforms as well.
The speaker is assigned, a security detail by Capitol Police, even when she's traveling, et cetera. But do you and most members, or I shouldn't even ask the question, you and most members of Congress do not have kind of 24/7 security keeping you safe. In the wake of this attack of a family member, the husband of the House Speaker, and also after January 6th, is it your view that a reassessment should be made about detail assigned to members of Congress, particularly after they have received threats?
Well, the United States Capitol Police does a very good job of trying to assess the level of, threats against members and then assigning people to help protect those individuals accordingly. I do think that we need to take a reexamination of the level of security for members, but also their families. As you know, most of us are not with our families for roughly, I'd say about 50% of the time in any given year. And, during that time that we're away, this case exactly happened to the speaker's husband. And you're right, after January 6th, the level of threats has just, expanded very significantly. And to the point where, for instance, in my case, we have a squad car that visits my house often once in the morning and once at night to just make sure everything is okay. And that's not normal. That is not what it should be in a democracy.
Yeah. And then now, you are on the Intelligence Committee, and federal agencies have just recently put out a bulletin warning that perceptions of election fraud will likely result in heightened threats of violence. From what you've seen, when we see images in Arizona of people armed, intimidating, just their presence intimidates voters. How worried are you about the threats of violence?
I am concerned, and I respectfully disagree with the judge who said that it was okay for these people who were armed and masked to be at the ballot boxes, supposedly guarding the vote or being vigilant about the vote. I think that just intimidates people. And my concern is that, one wrong move or one wrong word could escalate into violence again. I think that right now we're kind of at a situation where a lot of people in this country believe that political violence is an acceptable tool for change when it can never be acceptable, Frederica.
Right. Those who were outside of that polling station, they have made the claim that they are there to protect the vote, but there are some voters who have felt intimidated, and then the judge weighed in. Like you said, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.